Welcome to the live stream, ladies and gentlemen. This is Black Box Trading. I'm your host, JT, and we got a technical driven show today. Not a lot of fundamental news to be talking about, so we're not going to waste too much time on that. We're just going to get straight into the charts. So let's just go ahead and do that. We're getting down to the wire here. You know, this long is currently below the entry. The 4 hour, we're starting to hit things off on the 4 hour chart. The moving averages are in bearish alignment, which is not great. We were getting close to that bullish alignment. We've since crossed down bearish. But the one thing that I do like is, well, actually three things that I like. One is sentiment. So sentiment is really low. Everybody's really bearish. We are in the disbelief stage, in my opinion, from a macro, like, forget about the 4 hour chart. We're not talking about the 4 hour chart in terms of sentiment. A lot can move around when you're zoomed in. But if you just take a macro approach as to where we are in the market cycle, we are in the disbelief stage. People either don't believe that the bull market is going to continue, or if they do believe that the bull market is going to continue, they have price targets of 120, 150. Like, the potential for Bitcoin's price to go up is completely inconceivable to people. It is unbelievable. We are in the disbelief phase of the market cycle. I do expect acceleration to take place. It's just timing that acceleration, and we'll get into some of the timing in just a moment. But yeah, let's talk about the short-term timeframes now and talk about what we see that's a bullish potential. So zooming out here at this entire consolidation and taking a look at the volume profile in the visible range, you can see that we are below what's called the point of control. So there's two ways of looking at volume. You can look at volume down here, which indicates the amount of contracts or the amount of spot positions that were traded at any given candle. And then you can do volume analysis here, which gives you the amount or the volume of the asset traded at any given price. So when you're using the VPVR, the volume profile in the visible range, you have this red line here, and this red line indicates the point of control or that equilibrium of the consolidation. Currently, we are below that equilibrium. So you can look at it this one of two ways. One, we're bearish and we're losing the support. Or you can look at this as an oscillator. Every time we go below, we rally above. Every time we rally above, we go below. Given the short-term timeframes and given this bullish divergence that is taking place, I'm leaning more in favor of the oscillator setup as it stands right now. Turning alphanumerics back on, we can see a green diamond here and a green diamond here. Not only do we have two green diamonds, but this is a bullish divergence green diamond, which is a setup that I do quite like. So I did in the private group say that, you know, if we closed another daily candle below the point of control, I'd be looking to close out the position. But since then, we do have a setup that I like. So we're going to hold on to it. We're going to hold on to it and we're going to let it play out. So this could end up in a loss. We could end up hitting our stop loss, which is why it's really important to practice appropriate sizing and appropriate risk management. 1%, 2% risk per trade. If you go above that, you're basically going to blow up your account. So just don't do that. But yeah, we've got this beautiful bullish divergence here. Let's draw it out. We have a low and we have a lower low with a green diamond and another green diamond. And we have a low and an equal low. So the lows disagree, means it is a bullish divergence. So we're going to let this one play out. We're going to let this one play out. Let's see how things are doing on the daily chart. Daily's looking like it's coming down for some sort of a retest of the lows, and it is what it is. So let's turn the VPVR off. We don't need that anymore. Basically, what we're trying to develop here is some sort of a floor. I believe that we are close to a floor, just given sentiment. Sentiment is a huge driver for my decision making. When there's bullish people in the markets, and we're in a downtrend, I assume that we're going to have lower levels coming in. When there's nothing bullish out there and all you can see is bearish price predictions and bearish analysis, I tend to think that we're getting close to a floor. Could be wrong. If we take a look at Bitcoin here on the index chart, we totally could come down and retest the level. Let's actually go to the weekly chart so we can get more in frame. We could totally come down and retest this level right here, which is lining up with these 3 touch points right here. The first touch point, of the first cycle high. We got the dead cat bounce touch point here. We got the bull market relief rally touch point here. And we came down and we tested it once with this wick. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility for us to come down and test it again, which would bring us back to that kind of high 70s, low 80s area. Let's see what the chat has to say. AMX wave is red and you're longing. Has anybody been shorting the red wave? Yeah. Well, I don't short a bull market. I am still very much in the camp that we are still in a bull market. We have a lot of unresolved bullish news. Most recently and notable is GME adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. I personally think that this is a catalyst for a stock market mania. I think there's 2 catalysts that we need. We have the first catalyst. The first catalyst is showing the stock market, showing the companies, showing the CEOs of these companies that if they do a small allocation to Bitcoin, it can translate to a large value in their share price. That hasn't played out just yet for GME. It's heavily shorted, which is a good thing. I will get into that when we talk about GameStop in just a moment. But as soon as we start seeing a rally in GameStop and other, well, MicroStrategy has been around for a while, but as soon as we start to see a rally in GameStop, you're probably going to see other companies do the same thing and take on this strategy that MicroStrategy has pioneered because of its positive effects on stock value. You know, everybody's fighting to stay up there and rank high and bring value to their shares. So this could be a catalyst for a silly stock market mania. Like, who knows? The shitcoin cycle could actually happen on the US stock exchange with stocks as opposed to shitcoins. That's catalyst number 1. Catalyst number 2, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be, but we need to shake the uncertainty in the market. The market is very delicate right now. This is a characteristic of a topping market, and I'm not talking about a topping cycle. I'm talking about a topping overall global market. Like, a very big bear market is coming, in my opinion, one of the largest, probably the largest that you've ever seen in your financial career. We're getting really close to that. So you're seeing a lot of volatility because volatility increases at the top. Volatility increases at the top. So there's a lot of uncertainty, but as soon as that uncertainty flips, that uncertainty goes to certainty and we go into a rally. I don't know what the catalyst is going to be. Maybe it's Federal Reserve rate cuts, although those haven't been, phenomenal in the most recent past. Maybe it's removal of tariffs. Who knows? Who knows what the catalyst is going to be? But there will be some sort of economic catalyst that is going to bring the herd back in, lull them back into comfort. And then as a result, all of this pent up energy of the bullish fundamentals of Bitcoin, because it's been an incredible cycle for fundamentals. Bitcoin is incredibly bullish. There's so much fundamental news to report on with Bitcoin that will finally take effect. So we're just waiting on that catalyst. Those 2 catalysts have a very important role to play this cycle, in my opinion. So, we could actually close today's candle. We got several hours left in this candle, but let's say we reclaim on the RSI, if we reclaim kind of that level and we close this candle green, that could indicate yet another bullish divergence bounce. I guess that's not a bullish divergence. That's a different setup that I like. So this is not a technical bullish divergence, but I'll show you what the setup looks like and why I like it. These are kind of your inverse head and shoulders. You can see the same thing on a head and shoulders as well, where you get a low, a higher low, and we're waiting to see if we get a higher low, but you have a trend change on price. So we have a low, a lower low, and then potentially a higher low. So that would be your inverse head and shoulders. So you've got a technical pattern on the candles showing an inverse head and shoulders with a divergence. It's not a technical divergence. It's not, because, you know, there's only a divergence on the first 2 points, but you have an uptrend. You have an uptrend on the RSI, which is a different technical pattern than the technical pattern that we're seeing on price. So in that sense, it is diverging from the price, but it's not a technical divergence. So don't say that I'm saying it's a technical divergence, but it is a setup that I like. So we'll have to see how this candle closes. If it closes green, it's a potential that we're in the test range. And this test range is really going to be telling for how bullish is Bitcoin really. So this white line is kind of the textbook level where Bitcoin should be bullish, right? It's the textbook level where it should be bullish. Now, there's two things that you can look at when analyzing a test. Did the test successfully occur above the textbook line? Did the test successfully occur at the textbook line? Or did this test successfully test below that textbook line? This is the most bullish case scenario. This is a neutral scenario, and this is a bearish scenario. So you can have a bounce with a test. Let's say we wicked down to here and we recovered and bounced off. Even though there's a bounce, I would qualify that as bearish price action. I would say that the market's weaker than what it should be. If we wick down, touch the line, and bounce, then that's neutral. You're going to have to couple that up with different indicators to, you know, convince your bias and decide whether you're going to go long or short. But it's basically neutral at that point. But if we do not test the textbook line, that means that people are willing to take a position in Bitcoin prior to those levels being hit. So, you know, they're like, that's good enough. I'll take it. So that means that we're bullish. So if we do get a turnaround here, we're bullish. Did I even answer the question? I feel like I went on a huge tangent. Yes, so I am looking for longs based off of sentiment. Has anybody been shorting the red wave? I don't believe so. No, Matt hasn't been shorting. I haven't been shorting. I don't short a bull market. I think I said that at the beginning. Traveler of the Seas, good morning. You need a 4-hour green candle to confirm the bull div. Yep. Did we get it? It needs to rally off. Yeah, it needs to rally off. Weekly looks worse than the daily. Yeah, the weekly looks terrible. The weekly looks bad. You got this, you know, we had a nice recovery, then we had a bearish engulfing candle. So even in the most bullish case scenario that we talked about on the smaller time frames, you know, let's say this closes green, it still needs an entire week of price action after that to convince us that this touch is the low. So there's 6 days left on this candle. It's basically a brand new, it's a full brand new candle. We just had the weekly close on this candle. So there's a lot of price action left in this candle. So unless it creates a bullish engulfing candle over the week, which means that it has to achieve a price of over $86,000, which isn't impossible in a week. But if it does anything short of that, it'll be a bearish candle, and it'll mean that we're not going to have a recovery till at least a few weeks down the road. we're going to cover M2 money supply. I've been seeing it pop up on Twitter and YouTube a lot. So we've talked about M2 money supply numerous times here on the channel and how it is Bitcoin's price is lagging the fundamentals of money printing. But we'll get into that soon. We'll get into that in a moment. Chart looks like shit, but my stomach says buy. It tells me to buy. Yeah. It's not even telling me. It's screaming at me to buy. Not financial advice, but I'd go with the gut. Can we take a second to enjoy the track price action? We will. We will take a look. I don't know. Capital rotation looks to be happening, and metals are showing that. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see, man. Everybody's afraid. Like, Trump's a businessman. If he's going to put on a whole bunch of tariffs, what does that force people to do? It forces them to go to the negotiation table. What do you want? What's the deal? How can we work together? What can we do? And then they come up with a deal. And then, okay, based off of this agreement with China, we're going to remove the tariffs. Boom, rally. Based off of this agreement with the UK, we're going to remove the tariffs. Boom, rally. Based off of this agreement with Canada and Mexico, we're going to remove the tariffs. You have no idea. Like, we have no idea. This all happened last time Trump was in office too. That's what's funny to me. That's what's humorous in my analysis here is that he did the exact same things. He broke down the NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement. He tariffed China, and that caused them to go to the table and renegotiate. And we had one of the biggest bull markets. We had one of the biggest bull markets after that was all taken care of. If we, let's just remind ourselves here. Let's go over to this monthly chart. This was the last time Trump took office and did a bunch of trade war. He's always doing trade. That's his MO. That's what he does. Trade war, negotiation, and deals. So Trump took office, trade war, negotiation, resolution. The bull market ain't over. The bull market ain't over. We haven't done this part yet. This is February's candle. This is March's candle. Red. We have a red March. April. I don't think we're going to get a green April. May. I think we're actually going to see something nice in May. And boom, man. Like, this was a massive rally. This was a massive rally, 1,300% rally. What would that do? Let's pretend. Let's have fun. Let's have fun for just a moment, and let's put on a 1,300% rally from here. $1 million. $1 million. Like I've been saying since Bitcoin was at 18K. And I say that, and you sit there and you say, this guy's fucking crazy. This guy's fucking crazy. There's no way. Like, what are you smoking? What glue are you huffing? And need I remind you, only time will tell. Only time will tell. But Wall Street cheat sheet. Only time will tell. Where are we? Disbelief. You cannot believe it. What I am saying is unbelievable. Disbelief, hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria. We haven't had this yet. We haven't had the mania yet. Your friends from high school and your friends and family, your second cousin from whatever hasn't called you on the phone and asked you how to get into Bitcoin yet. We haven't had the mania. And M2 keeps on pumping. M2 keeps on pumping. That's a good segue into M2. So let's take a look at the M2 money supply. Let's turn alphanumerics off for just a moment. Let's make this a little bit wider. And let's go into M2 money supply. And we can see that this is a lagging indicator to Bitcoin. So let's let's take a look here. Let's get some Bitcoin in frame here. Let's go to log and let's move that up. Get it to line up a little bit. So you can see here, decline, right? Decline. Then we had a pivot. We had a pivot and a rally. And you can see the tops lined up with these rallies here. But at the pivot to the rally was 91 days, 3 months of a delay. Okay, 3 months of a delay. Here's the pivot. Bitcoin actually front run the pivot there. So it's not a hard and fast rule, but here's the pivot. Bitcoin rallied 21 days later. Here's the current pivot, or the last pivot rather. Bitcoin rallied 70 days later. Top came in, having a pullback, doing our double bottom test. The rally comes in. We're at 80 days already. So it's close. It's close in my opinion. We got to get this rally, which at least brings us past prior all-time highs. If we go strictly off M2, it'll go 20% beyond all-time highs. So that's, your 120, 125, 130, something like that. But, the M2 hasn't slowed down. If you are buying, focus on the spot markets. We are getting a little cheeky here with the futures contracts, but that's super low risk, Focus on spot. All right, let's take a look at some of the other fundamentals here. Let's take a look at gold. Gold is actually lock and step with M2. And to prove that, I'll pull up M2 again. I really gotta set the defaults here. Make this default. So gold has been ripping and it's following M2 almost perfectly. Let's turn alphanumerics off. Let's bring M2 down a little bit. So gold and M2 are a lot more correlated. They're not perfect, neither is Bitcoin, but both Bitcoin and gold are a reflection of money printing. The more money they print, the higher assets rise, the higher the price of assets rise. Why? Because the comparative, it's Bitcoin USD, Bitcoin Euro, Bitcoin, yen, whatever you're looking at. The measuring stick has been diluted. So by pure mathematics, that means that there's a higher denominator for Bitcoin. Takes a while for the market to correct this because speculation is a thing. Speculation is a real thing. But man, this chart is phenomenal. Shout out to the gold bugs out there. You've been killing it. And gold hasn't been given, the best returns for a really long time. But yeah, man, $3,100 per ounce. Makes me wish I was a little bit more into gold, but I'm a digital nomad. The last thing I'm going to do is fucking travel with a bunch of gold. Weight limits on those airlines, man. Got to stay light and digital. But yeah, this is great. Let's see how silver is doing. Nah, not too much. Silver is silver. Silver's never really gonna do too much compared to gold. All right, let's take a look at the S&P. S&P is going to open soon. When does it open? Pre-market starts in 3 hours. So in 3 hours, I think we're going to get a pretty good indicator as to, is Bitcoin going to hold? Is Bitcoin going to hold these levels? Are we going to rally off this level? Because this is a support level. This is the area of the retracement, and we've now come down for a retest. What is going to be the result of the test? Is the test going to be testing this as support, or is the support going to fail and we're going to head down to lower levels? If it heads down to lower levels, we got a lot of repairing to do, and Bitcoin's probably going to go below the high 70s, may even go into the low 70s. Taking a look at the NASDAQ. NASDAQ is basically at that equal low. This area right here. Sitting at the equal low. So, it's going to be a very important market open today. Let's just say that. It's going to be a very important market open today. So, pre-market starts in 3 hours. And then 4.5 hours after that, 5 hours after that, we get the main action. Last day of red month should be green week. Why are we dumping today? Not familiar with that one. I mean, the market's going to do whatever it's going to do. There's no rules. Technical analysis is not a way to predict the future in any way, shape, or form. Do not fall for that trap. And I'm not speaking directly to you. I'm speaking to anybody that thinks that technical analysis is a way to predict the next candle. It's not. It's a way for you to make decisions. It's a language. You are reading a book. It's a language of ideas. It's a language of what has already occurred, and it helps you make decisions on whether you want to be exposed to a certain market or not. But it is not a crystal ball. It doesn't tell you the future. You can identify patterns, and the patterns can play out in favorable percentages. But, the absolute best setup that you could ever see is still, in my opinion, like 68 to 70%. So you still have a 30 to 32% chance of being wrong, which is a third. That's your best setup. Your best setup, you will still be wrong over 30% of the time. If you go in with that mindset, a lot of this stuff makes sense. Let's see how the dollar's doing. So the dollar's cooperating. The dollar is doing what we want the dollar to be doing. The dollar is declining. That's what you want. If you are on risk on assets, you want the dollar to be devalued. And M2 is climbing. We know the dollar is being devalued. But what we need is some good follow through. We're hitting the mean here. You can see this channel that's been drawn for years now. We're on the middle of this channel. So we're holding it as support. So there's a lull, there's a pause. There's a decision that needs to be made. Are we going to rally off of this support in the dollar, or are we going to crash through it? If the S&P is to continue to rally, if gold is to continue to rally, if Bitcoin is to continue to rally, we need to fall through this support. And then we will pause again at this support. If we lose this support, that's full on bull market. That's full blown bull market. And we will likely hold this major support down here. That would be kind of like the end of the bull market. And then we would bounce from there, and probably bounce in a very big way. Remember, the dollar, you know, if we come down to the bottom of this channel and it holds, then the dollar will likely just rally from there and do a multi-year trend back up to the top of the channel. When it gets to the top of the channel, that's when you go back into risk assets. That's why I'm saying, you know, there's a potential setup here for a massive bull run, and B, one of the longest bear markets that we've seen in a long time. So it's both, and that's confusing for a lot of people, but this is what I believe. I think we are going to lose this support level. I think the dollar is going to continue to decline. I think we're going to lose this support level and go to this macro multi-decade support line. And from that support line, I think we will bounce. And that bounce will be a bounce that will take 10 years. And if we take 10 years to get back to the top of the channel, that's 10 years of bear market. So not to freak anybody out, I'm still bullish, but you know, from a large point of view, from a macro point of view, we're reaching the end of a very significant price cycle, in my opinion. And you got to be prepared for that. I think the 4-year cycles are done. Like, forget Bitcoin. I'm talking everything. Everything bubble. And part of that is, you know, going back to the S&P. Look at this chart on the monthly. Guys, it's a shitcoin chart. This is a shitcoin chart. You've seen this chart a million times. What happens next? What happens next when we are parabolic? You get a massive correction. Like if we topped out here, no joke, as crazy as it sounds, again, unbelievable, I think the S&P can drop by 60%. Now I'm getting a little too crazy for people. I guarantee that's just, you know, you got people unsubscribing, you got people turning it off. These are just my thoughts. These are just my opinions. More than happy to be proven wrong. But this is a hyperwave. Study hyperwaves. A hyperwave is no joke. You know, hyperwaves play out all the time throughout the ages. We've seen countless hyperwaves in financial markets. The markets can't go up forever. They can't. They need to correct. And when they don't correct and they go hyperbolic, they correct harder. Because we live in reality, and reality has a correct price. And when you distort reality, it can be unfathomable when reality is realized and we actually come back down to reality. I will put the farm on a bullish scenario. Too much positive things happening around BTC for me to think otherwise. Yep. There's a lot of positivity out there. You are also right. I think the 4-year cycle, no more cycles. I think we are entering, since we're talking about cycles, I think we're entering a .com bubble. So let's go to the NASDAQ. I think we're entering the .com bubble back here. So let's break this down. If we're entering the .com bubble, let's say we're here as far as the indexes are concerned. You know, we got another 50% up to go in the NASDAQ. And then when that's done, the NASDAQ is going to retrace 80%. 80%. Why would this happen? Why would we have a .com bubble? Because of GameStop. If this Bitcoin strategy works for GameStop, you are going to have other companies put Bitcoin on their balance sheet because it worked for MicroStrategy, it worked for MetaPlanet, it worked for GameStop. So other companies are going to be like, well, shit, we only need a 5% allocation to Bitcoin and our share value is going to double. It's a good return. And if that happens, you will see a .com narrative. Because what happened during the .com boom? Companies started websites. That's it. This whole mania, this whole rally, this whole nonsensical price action came from the fact that it was the first time that companies tradable on the US stock exchange created a website. How fucking ridiculous is that to us right now? Everybody has a website. Like you probably have a website. Everybody has a website. And all these companies needed to do was just make a website and say, hey, go to ourcompany.com. And the share values were going through the roof. It's the same setup. It's the exact same setup. Hey, we're putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Share price goes through the roof. Hey, we're also putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Share price goes through the roof. I still think that there's a setup here. Could be wrong. Could be wrong. But I'm calling for some large moves. I'm calling for some large moves up, and I'm also calling for some large moves down. So how much time did it take to recover from that? Let's say you bought the top. You know, let's say Bitcoin goes to $1 million and somebody buys Bitcoin at $1 million. How long did it take to break even? Which obviously they wouldn't have held, but it took 6,000 days. 6,000 days. $16 years. 16 years. We got a big bear market ahead of us, in my opinion. If the theories that I'm talking about come true, if you see this Bitcoin on the balance sheet bull market take place, you need to be very careful because that's this generation's .com boom. I feel like I'm beating this horse a little too much, but I just want you guys to not only be aware that there's certainly potentials for higher prices, but there's absolutely potentials for atrocious pullbacks. And at the bottom of the bull market, at the bottom of the bear market, 80% down, you know, you start to see an uptrend after 2,000 days, 2,300 days, which is six and a half years. So a two cycle bear market is what I'm calling for. Big ass bull market and a 2-cycle bear market. What is the best price to sell Avalanche? If I have ways to multiply my avalanche bags even with these market conditions, I would just focus on Bitcoin. So when you believe that Bitcoin has topped out, Avalanche will have a price. whatever that price is, whatever the price of Avalanche is when Bitcoin reaches a top, will be the price at which you sell. I use Bitcoin as a decision maker in the market primarily. This is why I haven't really taken large positions in altcoins. But speaking of positions in altcoins, I have an announcement for a new coin that is not new to many of you. I'm sure people have even mentioned for me to pay attention to this coin. I'm paying attention now because it fits into a narrative that I'm holding off of. I'm not buying this coin anytime soon because we're not at that point in the cycle, in my opinion. We have to wait for that rotation to take place. We have to wait for investor confidence to come back to the market. There's a lot of things that we need to wait for. So I'm not about to pile into an altcoin when everything's looking bad. But Sonic. Shout out to the Sonic fans out there. This is formerly Phantom. This one's being added to the watch list because, we'll take a look at Bitcoin dominance in a moment, but I just wanted to let you guys know this is one that I'm watching closely now. Every cycle kind of has its smart contract platform that's like the bee's knees. It's like the best thing that's ever happened. Last cycle, it was Solana. The cycle before that, it was Ethereum, which was the only one last cycle, the cycle before that. But look at the cycles of the assets. Ethereum had its heyday in 2017. It's never done any better than that bull run in 2017. Then Solana had a similar bull run to what Ethereum had the prior cycle. So what we can expect for Solana this cycle is, yes, it'll do well. Yeah, it'll do well. Don't worry. Solana will do well. But it's not going to do what it did last cycle, and it's not going to do what Ethereum did in 2017. My theory for an altcoin currently is I think Sonic is the Solana of last cycle. Based on nothing but narrative and community groupthink. When I listen to the people who talk about Sonic, they sound a lot like the people who were talking about Solana last cycle. So it's finally, grabbed my attention because there's a potential narrative here. So Sonic is one that I'm looking at. Yeah, exactly my thoughts. It takes only a couple more companies to start a new stock rally, no matter what happens macro-wise. Yeah, if there's money to be made, there's a rally to be had. All right. So I revealed the coin. We got to take a look at Bitcoin dominance, though, because as long as dominance continues to climb higher, which, boom, the last candle, this candle right here, the candle that just closed 4 hours ago, is a new high in this overall trend for Bitcoin dominance. It is not altcoin season. I think at this point, if I wanted to be cheeky, I could move this line up. This has been a moving target. Altcoin season starts. I can move that up to 60% at this point and probably be correct. But yeah, we're still climbing. Green candle after green candle, higher close after higher close. It is not the time for altcoins. So as excited as I am, I'm getting people excited about Sonic. I'm not taking a position. Not yet. Not until Bitcoin dominance begins to fall. Which means Sonic will be at a higher price. Sonic might do something like this. Sonic will be up here. And then I'll be buying. But I'll be buying when Bitcoin is cooperating. I'm not going to buy when Bitcoin's not cooperating. Because I could buy here and Sonic could come down here. And it doesn't look like much, but that's like a 90% correction. So I only buy alts when they are cooperating. $37 people watching the live stream. Thanks to everybody who is watching live. If you are following on YouTube, hit the subscribe, not the subscribe button. Follow me on X. Retweet this stream if you would be so kind. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe. And if you're on Twitch, we got one guy on Twitch. Shout out to the one guy on Twitch. Really appreciate you watching. There's not much to do on Twitch. It's just views based, but I appreciate you, man. I'm not as big as I'd like to be on Twitch, but shout out to the Twitch users. I really like the Twitch platform. As a streamer, it's kind of the best platform for streaming. But it's just, you know, it doesn't have the volumes. It seems that YouTube and Twitter are where everybody is tuning in. Twitter is surprising me, I gotta say. Twitter is surprising me. We have 21 people. We have most of the people watching on Twitter. That shocks me. I don't know. I'm a big YouTube guy. I watch a lot of YouTube. I consume a lot of YouTube. I'm never hanging out on Twitter spaces, X spaces. I'm not watching X streams. So I'm very shocked. But anyways, shout out to you guys anyways. I appreciate you. The rotation has not taken place yet. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, XRP Bitcoin. Potential for a rejection. Where would we get a rejection to? I'm not sure. But yeah, you know what? Let's not get too overcomplicated with it. It's actually really quite simple. And you guys have seen me do this on numerous occasions. Oh, where'd it go? You've seen me do this on numerous occasions. When we're above this line, we're bullish. Keep it simple. When we're below this line, we're bearish. Keep it super simple. This line right here, this one right here, the one that stopped us from continuing to rally. If we are above it, we are bullish. If we are below it, we are bearish. So what are we on XRP? We're bearish on XRP. As soon as we are above it, this thing's going to be insane. Like I'm very bullish with XRP above that line. Price wise, I'm not bullish on XRP from a fundamental standpoint, but that's something that I'm learning to get a little bit quieter on. Can you take a look at BNB? Sure. We'll take a look at Cardano and Solana first. Cardano losing the support. Losing the support. That's the line in the sand. When we are below it, we are bearish. When we are above it, we are bullish. We were above it. Now we're below it. So we were bullish. Now we are bearish. Bearish on Cardano short term. Let's pull up Solana. XRP army out there waiting. I'll be careful. Yeah, they're always there. Come on now, what's all this? Solana, where are you, Solana? There we go. We'll go 3-day on Solana. I only focus on the Bitcoin pairs right now because I'm watching for that rotation. If you're not seeing green candles on these charts, it's not worth your time. So I'm sorry that you have to look at these numbers, the sats per, per soul, but this is, I'm like forcing your hand and doing the right thing. This is what you should be paying attention to, in my opinion. And we're holding support, but it looks weak. We're, above this line, we're bullish. Below this line, we're bearish. We're kind of inside of it. I'm neutral. I don't have an opinion on Solana. All right. We had a request to take a look at Track. Boom. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. So that kind of leads us into the fundamental section of what's going on with Track. So Track staking and token upgrade is taking place. They've written this Medium article that is explaining how your Track BRC20 token, the BRC20 version of Track, is going to go to the Track network, the native network. So this is a token transfer. We're changing protocols. How you change the protocol is you stake your BRC20 tokens into a contract, and you will be issued an APY of TAP tokens on top of that on the native Track network. So people are getting stoked. People are stoked, and we're seeing it in the price. We have 20%, 49% up on this. Oh, it's a 3-day candle. Sorry. 20% up on the day, but more importantly is we are finally breaking the technical downtrend. We haven't done it yet. But boy, oh boy, are we close. Boy, oh boy, are we close. And if the market likes it this much, they're probably going to continue to like it, and we're going to go past 60 cents. So I see some very interesting price action coming to Track, because now we have a DeFi element being added. People are going to stake and they want an APY. Track is also kind of, as a side note, a comparative play to Sonic. Sonic definitely has more of a cult following because it has all of the Phantom users from prior cycle. Sonic has much more community. It has more people involved that are aware, but Track has higher throughput. Sonic is being touted as like the highest throughput smart contract platform. Track is faster. So yeah, fundamentally, some interesting things coming to Track. So the next logical question that you're going to ask me is, hey, am I going to stake my Track? Now, this is entirely up to you. I encourage you to read the Medium article, and you can decide who you are. Are you a Justin? Are you a Rebecca? Or are you a Jeremy? Under the article here, as though they have painted Jeremy as a bit of an idiot, I'm going to be basically a Jeremy for this. So me personally, you do not have to follow me. I'm not going to be staking my Track. I'm not going to be staking my Track. And the reason being is the staking period is 4 months long, which means it closes in 4 months. There's two things that are going to happen. First of all, the BRC20 supply is going to be shrinking while excitement and hype comes to the Track native platform. But 4 months is pushing it. 4 months is pushing it for what I anticipate to be kind of the window for a potential top in the market. It's on the conservative end. That puts us in like June, July, something like that, with, they're already talking about a potential delay into August. Knowing Track, it'll probably be September. And that's just too close to the top, because the thing is, you can't unstake. It's a one-way valve. If you stake it, the only time you're getting your tokens back is when the mainnet goes live. So me personally, and things may change, I'm not going to do it. So I'm giving up the 20% APY in TAP. And that's just what I'm doing. That's my opinion. You do not have to follow me. If you stake Track day one, you get maximum yields. You get maximum APY in TAP tokens. So you really need to read the article and make your own decisions on how you want to handle it. But yeah, baby, Track is getting some momentum. Track is getting some traction. All right. Any interest in Mantra DAO? Me personally, no. There's literally over 10 million coins. I can't follow everything. I don't care. And, that's not to say like MantraDAO sucks. I'm just, I can only look at so many things. It's not something that I'm looking at. That's it. So don't take offense. I'm just not looking at it. It's rallied quite a bit. In my opinion, it actually looks like it's kind of topped out. It could go for another impulse, but this is not a value buy for me. I don't own any. And at these levels, I'll never own any. So that's the short and sweet of it. I like the reduction of supply depending on how much is staked. Yep. So people like me that wait till the last second and might not get in, my tokens could get burned. That's another thing to be aware of. Okay. What I'm saying that I'm going to be doing, waiting to stake, I run the risk if I don't get into the staking window on the block of the live mainnet, my tokens are burned. They're worth 0. Actually, I get to keep the BRC20 and they will apparently have a value, but there's no fundamentals behind them anymore. The project has moved on without them. Travelers of the Sea, Track versus Nat, they're very different. Nat doesn't actually do anything. Track does a lot. Track is an oracle. Track is a smart contract platform. Track is actually extremely valuable. It's a layer 2 scaling solution for Bitcoin smart contracts. Nat is a meme coin. It's the first digital matter token that's ever been issued on the Bitcoin blockchain. So it has provenance as far as a new token protocol. But how did that work out for Ordi? Ordi was the first BRC20. Nobody gives a shit. But Nat has a large following. I hold Nat. I want to see it go up, but they're two completely different things. It's not a fair comparison. All right, we'll round things off with a recap on Bitcoin, and then we will close things out. But now when the miners get it also, yeah, so that just means that the miners have more money so that they can sell. The miners don't give a shit. Oh, hey, somebody's giving us free tokens. Cool. Now we can pay our electricity bill. It's better than bots because the bots' only function was to get the new NAT tokens and immediately list them. Not all the miners are paying attention. Most of the miners are probably not paying attention. They don't even know that they hold these tokens. So cool. But, as the narrative of NAT builds, they're going to know they hold these tokens. And when they realize, holy shit, guys, we've mined like 20 blocks of these freaking NAT tokens. We're sitting on a couple grand here because these things are in a bull market. They'll just dump. All right. So on Alpha Numerics, this bullish divergence is looking like it could. It's looking like it could. Will it? We will see. But yeah, I think the US Open today is going to be a volatile open. Mondays are usually volatile opens, and this one's got so much riding on it. Like the S&P's right at support, the Nasdaq's right at support. Gold is rallying. Narratives are fearful. So there's a lot riding on this open, and it could be quite volatile. If we don't bounce, there will be blood in the streets. There will be blood in the streets. It may not happen today, may not happen tomorrow, but if it doesn't get a solid decision over today's open or Tuesday's open, then she'll probably go down. Okay, thanks. Trying to understand it. What's the difference between Alpha Numerics and MDX Algo? Easy. We have nothing to do with MDX Algo. Completely different company, completely different founders. You're coming from Financial Summit. Financial Summit is an umbrella media brand that works with different creators. We have nothing to do with MDX Algo. So we are one of the creators under the Financial Summit brand. But yeah, you know, Matt and I, we're building bots, we're building indicators, and we have no idea what Stu's doing. Stu's doing his own thing. Futures opened lower. There's 3 hours of price action. There's 3 hours of price action. Are the futures even open? Pre-market on this. Okay. We'll see. We'll see. Only time will tell. Only time will tell. All right, that is all the time I have for today. If you guys enjoyed this content, please leave it a like. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and retweet, and do all the things. You guys aren't new. You've been in this market for a while. And shout out to all the people who are watching on Rumble. Shout out to my Twitch viewers. I know there aren't a lot of you, but I like the Twitch viewers. They got a good handle on community, and they often come into the Discord, which reminds me, go to the Discord, go to blackbox.pro, BLKBöX.pro, create your free Bitcoin trading bot dashboard. It's just a username and password. You don't need to do anything. And once you're in the dashboard, click the join community tab, and that'll get you direct access into the Discord. If you go with the links down below, there's extra steps. If you want to get direct access as a verified member, create a black box account first. And yeah, we will see you guys in the Discord. We'll see you tomorrow when we're live streaming tomorrow. We're going to try and start live streaming every single day. And yeah, enjoy.